My life is in disarray. I have no one in the world with whom to discuss this. I'm not sure what I need more, a pep talk or some advice. I use memes and other nonsense on my primary account, but I'm going crazy trying to cope, which is why I made this throwaway. I've been pushed to my limit by life, and I'm having trouble regaining my integrity. However, I wonder what the truly moral things are to do, say, and consider. I suppose I should start by stating that I'm doing this in a hospital room. I was in an accident with my wife yesterday morning at around 7:30 a.m. I barely had a few cuts and bruises when I came out. My spouse Mari sustained 3 fractured ribs, a collapsed lung, a crushed shoulder, and a broken collarbone. Although doctors keep her deeply sedated for the time being, they expect her to fully recover. It's a difficult undertaking having to type this out on a phone. Even though I'm not sure if I have the will to do it, I currently have the time to persevere. Obviously, if everything in our marriage were great, I wouldn't be posting in this sub. I simply could not fathom my wife being in any way disloyal. My heart is shattered. I feel as though a piece of myself is gone. Most tragically, that section is only 3 feet away from me. Over the past 3 months, I had sensed that we were becoming less close, but I was at a loss as to why. Both of us are 34 years old. Mari and I have been friends from our early childhood. We went from high school to college together as a couple. The only lady I have ever engaged in any physical activity with is her. She was able to say the same until lately. A year after graduating from college, we got married, and a year later Michael was born. Carrie, our daughter, was born 3 years after my son, and I spent the rest of her life attempting to spoil her. I love my children more than I love life. I doubt I would be here at this moment if it weren't for them. Thank God they were not a part of the collision. They were staying at my parents' house for the night. Yesterday afternoon was our scheduled flight down to Florida for a cruise. That is obviously all canceled. I pleaded with my wife to go home and not drive about in the snow, but she insisted on going out with her best friend. Since they wouldn't see each other for a week, she vowed she and her best friend Rebecca would merely have a couple beers. I went to bed and slept through to roughly 5 in the morning. After getting up, I noticed that my wife's car was not in front of the house and that we had received many more inches of snow. I figured Mari and Becca crashed at her apartment after getting a touch too tipsy. After throwing on some clothes, I entered my SUV. I texted Mari before I left, telling her that I was coming to collect her and that the snow was too deep for her to drive. It was left unread. How many times have I wondered what would have occurred if she had read that text? I can't even begin to count. My life would remain a lie. I would still trust my instincts. However, I wouldn't be in the complete despair I am right now. When I arrived, I pulled up in front of Becca's condo. The message had not yet been read when I gave it another glance. Actually, I had hoped Mari would read it and be prepared for my arrival. However, I accepted that I would have to wake her up by going inside. I entered via the front door, which was unlocked, and turned to face the TV room on my right. Nobody was dozing off on the couch. Since Rebecca was upstairs in her bedroom, I didn't want to wake her. I proceeded to her guest room by climbing the stairs and unlocked the door. My life then came to an end. Upon entering the room, I recall noticing 2 heads peeking out from the covers. I recall reaching down to yank the comforter in my direction. My wife once laid her head on a shirtless man's chest, as I recall. The next thing I recall seeing is Becca, Mari, and an unfamiliar man who was partially nude attempting to yank me away from him. If they hadn't, I'd be in jail right now. However, I genuinely can't recall anything. I don't really feel too horrible about that, right or wrong. Conversely, my spouse. These days, though, that varies minute by minute. The guy promised to get his friend to the hospital when I regained consciousness. Rebecca and I cried loudly as Mari sobbed uncontrollably. I gave her and my spouse a 5-minute notice to get into my car or to stop bothering to come home. In 3, she was present. Even with 4-wheel drive, driving in the snow when furious is not a smart idea. However, it was a different car that cut into our lane and pushed us through the guard barrier. That is what led to Mari's wounds. Thank God for airbags when the car rolled. We did, however, survive. The children are unaware that we were in a wreck. I have not made any calls. I probably ought to have. It wasn't simply a wreck, though. My life has been completely destroyed. And before I start involving other people, I'm attempting to assess the harm. Even though I'm numb, I hurt badly, and not from the wreck. In that hospital bed, there's a person I don't even think I know. There are so many questions I want to ask her. However, I'm not really interested in learning the answers. It's clear that she no longer loves me. Nobody in the world could be unfaithful to someone they love. Thus, I must inquire if she ever loved me. And if it were possible, would I ever want her to love me again now that she has cheated? I'm not sure exactly when she cheated on us. However, in my opinion, our marriage terminated the moment she did. The promises were not kept. We are no longer husband and wife since she put an end to our union. She's already dissolved my marriage, so I don't need a divorce lawyer. As a result, I am no longer bound by the promises I made. I really want to just leave this room for the most part. After all these years, I want to call her parents and tell them what she did and what happened. And then let them know that she is once again their problem. For better or worse, that's what we said, and I meant it. However, our marriage has ended. A part of me wants to write her a note telling her that after she stopped our relationship, terrible things happened. My kids are the only thing keeping me in this fucking room. I'm dying to see them right now. On my face and neck, though, I have minor scratches. If they saw me, they would know something had happened. My kids need my wife, even if I think she has soiled our family and herself. I believed I had found my soulmate. Even though she turned out to be awful, my kids still need their mother. There will be conversations that I am not equipped to conduct, and I am not sure where to start. There will be wounds that require kisses rather than encouragement to heal on their own. I can't be a mother and a damn decent father at the same time. Somebody assist me. How can I sit here and ignore someone who has so viciously stabbed me in the back? Do I need to invite her parents to come? How do I inform them? Especially with her parents around, I really don't want to be here. They'll know I'm furious if I don't tell them what she did. What do I tell my kids in God's name? Yes, I am able to inform them that we were a mess, but I'm not the type to pretend to feel something. My wife, of course, does it effortlessly. But my look is how I demonstrate how much I hate someone. They'll understand that I'm upset with their mother. What in the world happened to my life? I've already come to the conclusion that I need to see a lawyer. How then do I respond to this? I didn't think my post had posted because it took so long to be approved. I apologize for not getting back to those who left helpful comments sooner. I've only recently started receiving notifications. Update. I was unable to reply to comments on my initial post for some reason. Given that this is a throwaway account, it might have some significance. However, I could respond to comments, but only I could see them. I had trouble last night trying to post this update on the infidelity sub. With any luck, this update won't have the same issue, and I'll be able to provide feedback so that others can help me more effectively. I apologize to all of you who did reply. It was useful and appreciated. I chose to spend an additional night in the hospital room following my first post of that day. I listened to the medical machines while I relaxed in the recliner, staring up at the ceiling with the Mari drugged and the lights out. I lay there thinking to myself, how in the world had my life come to that? Even though I loved her, there was a part of me that thought I was being unfairly kind to her by simply being in the same room. That was not the affection I wanted to feel. To be honest, I felt weak for feeling anything good for her. I kept thinking over and over that there was no going back to how things had been. It appeared as though a natural calamity had stolen and demolished the life we had created. I sobbed. I sobbed uncontrollably. That was a really significant point in my life when I recognized that a significant portion of my life was over. I excused myself when the nurse entered the room the following morning to take blood. Mari shouted out to me as soon as she saw me leaving the house, but I pretended not to hear her. I headed over to grab some breakfast. Since finding out my appetite hasn't been too strong, I made an effort to pass the time by eating and looking through my phone. I neglected to read the text I received from Becca inquiring about Mari's whereabouts. At 7 in the morning, I thought it was late enough to go to her parents' house. Her father had always risen early. I was going to speak with him first, and he could wake his wife up if he felt she needed to hear it. I knocked on his door before going inside since I could see smoke rising from the wood stove in his workshop out back. He noticed the bruise on my cheek and the scratches on my neck. I said that we needed to communicate since there had been an accident, and Mari had suffered the most. I believe he thought I was talking about the accident, so he woke up my mother-in-law to listen to me. I described to us how an incoming motorist could swerve into our lane while navigating a curve while we were sitting in the kitchen. I kept us on the road until we hit the guardrail by using the bigger car and all-wheel diving. One of the concrete-mounted vertical I-beams was grabbed by the passenger side door. Mari was hit hard even with the side airbags. She had multiple injuries, but I assured them that she was stable and that a full recovery was anticipated. Knowing that their daughter had endured pain but would still be there to adore them made them both cry. They would be here to support me in any way they could to help me take care of Mari as soon as they hinted. That's when I stopped them and told them I hadn't come to tell them about the wreck. When I tell them about getting up that morning, texting my wife before heading out in the snow to make sure she was okay, they seemed perplexed. I told them about the day I accidentally beat a guy I'd never seen while watching their daughter. They were both taken aback. I then informed them of the hospital room she was in and said that I hoped they would continue to be nice with me because I had always wanted them to be involved in the children's life. I informed them that my dad was currently taking care of them. However, since their daughter had violated our vows and was no longer my wife, I was divorcing her. I was heading to my dad's house to inform the kids about the collision as I was leaving their place. I also intended to inform them that we would no longer be together, and that we were splitting up. I refused to inform them that their mother is unfaithful. Even though I hated the way things had to end, I informed my ex-in-laws that at least I could say that I wasn't the one who ruined my life and our marriage. They attempted to convince me not to act so quickly, that she erred, and other such weak justifications. I simply grinned, told them how much I had enjoyed having them as in-laws over the years, and turned to leave. Naturally, I had a lot I needed to get off my chest when I went to my dad's. When I went through the kitchen door, my dad was drinking coffee. All he knew was that I was meant to be in the Caribbean on a large yacht. Asking me what I was doing there, he got up. I simply seized him, gave him a hug, and sobbed uncontrollably. He was genuinely curious about the situation, but he felt he should give me space to scream it out before interfering. After guiding me to the den, he set me down on the couch and went to get my mother. Both of us insisted that she first drink a cup of coffee, but she knew I had something nasty to tell them if I was there by myself at that hour. I initially gave an explanation of Mari's adultery, how I caught her, and why I left Becca's. Next, I described the wreck and how horrible it was. I informed them of Mari's wounds and said I would notify her parents just an hour beforehand so they could visit her. My folks were in disbelief. At last, my mother asked me what I was going to do. I told them my only choice was to get a divorce from Mari so I could be the best father I could be for my kids. And they both started crying. Our talk was coming to an end when I heard my daughter Carrie yell, "Daddy!" and rush toward me down the stairs. My son was downstairs when that happened a few minutes later. I just spent some time hugging them because it had been so long. I was really delighted to see them. It took them some time to see my scratches. I informed them about the accident and that, while their mother was in the hospital, she would recover. I told them that their mother will eventually be picking them up by Mari's parents, and that was all. My two kids gave me the will to live again after we spent the day laughing, playing, holding, and talking to each other. To be honest, up until that time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue or not. However, they are worthy of being lived for, guarded, and treasured. No one has responded in days because my wife's phone was ruined in the collision. I knew Mari had to be the source of the texts I began receiving early that evening from my MIL's phone. I disregarded them. They turned off notifications and went on intermittently through the night. I discussed filing for divorce with 3 law offices the following day. I'm not sure if I need or even want a formal divorce. However, that will decide child custody and divide up our assets. I have no interest in what she does with whom anymore. I've had meetings with 2, and I was really fond of the latter. To see if he impresses me, I'll meet with the 3rd-rated attorney. If not, I'm going with the best divorce lawyer from the 2nd firm. In either case, I will have taken 3 of her most reputable legal sources off her list. And in my opinion, that's a victory. Taking custody is my main concern. Even if I could get complete custody, I wouldn't want it, so I'm not trying for it. In their life, their mother is indispensable. However, due to her actions, she will never be allowed back into my life. When the children need to get somewhere on time, a go-between can drop them off. There is absolutely no reason why I should ever speak to her again. Clearly, I never knew her, so why would I keep interacting with someone I don't know? Next week, after what would have been our cruise, I returned to work. I kept the wreck a secret from everyone at work, even ourselves. Naturally, they will notice that I'm using the rental automobile and inquire as to whether I have a new vehicle. I'm not sure if I have to give HR an explanation. However, I don't want everyone to view my private matters. Even without the news seeping out, I feel ashamed. Sometimes a divorce is necessary, but it's always a failure. However, I'm tired of serving as an anchor for a sinking ship. And for those who, understandably, insisted on getting tested for STDs, I had a thorough screening and thank God everything checked out. I'd done nothing wrong, yet even that was enough to make me feel like some kind of pervert in a trench coat. Mari has probably left the hospital by now. Not even an attempt was made by her parents to get her into the house. Mari sent me a ton of SMS that I didn't read, so they couldn't have gotten in touch with me anyway. I can move on from the biggest mistake of my life as soon as I submit the divorce papers and serve her. Her behavior rendered all of that time meaningless. I would not do it again if I had to do it again. A life with someone else, anyone else, who would genuinely be devoted and faithful is what I would choose. Her most valuable possession is what she purposefully discarded. The capacity for trust, going from being alone to having someone you can call your own. I shall miss that. However, I'm aware that was all a deception, and I had no significance for her. A lovely falsehood will make people swoon, while an ugly truth will make them shudder. I'm not among those individuals. Many want the gory information about my wife's extramarital affair, including who she cheated on me with, why and for how long. I apologize, but I'm unable to provide that information. Really though, I'd rather not know. There is no justification for cheating, short of someone really holding a gun to your head. Beyond that, you are evil when you have forged a lifelong link that you have vowed to protect and decide to let the other person destroy it. I sincerely hope that I had never encountered her and instead had chosen to trust someone else. It was not proper of her to give me life and then take it all away from me without my consent. My life was a facade in ruins that no one wants to live in, and the man I was before her betrayal will never exist again. The woman she was never existed. If you enjoy this type of content and would like to see more of it and support the channel, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications.